USL Championship final between San Antonio FC and Louisville City FC. I'm Chris Bills, not in Austin today, down here in San Antonio with my friend Jonathan Check. And Jonathan, biggest game in San Antonio history, hands down, right?
I think it's fair to say, I mean, from a stage perspective, obviously a USL Championship final is the first time they've ever been here. I think the only argument you could maybe make is the one game against Austin FC earlier this year to get some bragging rights there. But besides that, I think that doesn't even really come close.
And if you don't know the man to my right, Lincoln Rose, if there's a big event going on with soccer in Texas, chances are we'll see you somewhere, and we just were able to pull you in. So thanks for coming in and bringing some professionalism to this podcast.
Yeah, this is news to me. I don't recall San Antonio playing Austin this year. You're saying they met at some point this year.
It happened. I know Austin doesn't like to remember that, but it happened. No, I'm sure all the San Antonio FC fans will happily remind you of how that went.
But really, what a dream season this has been for San Antonio. Every piece of silverware that's been dangled in front of them, they have gone out and gotten it. And they're finally getting those sold-out crowds that they deserve each and every night.
And Lincoln, when you came up, you were talking about a game that happened, what you said, 8 years ago, almost to the date, NASL championship here. What are your memories from that? And just, how does that resonate coming out here and seeing a championship final in San Antonio all these years later?
Yeah, tell me if this sounds familiar. Toyota Field, site of a second division championship, a young head coach by the name of Alan Marcina, and they wear red and black, and they take care of business and delight 8,000 plus fans. Now, that was a cold night in 2014. That was the second to last year that the Scorpions were here. Of course, a couple years later, they would fold, and you'd have, fortunately, the Spurs come in and start SAFC, and the rest is history. But that night, it was San Antonio against Fort Lauderdale, two teams that had been fantastic all year. The New York Cosmos had been knocked out a little bit earlier in the postseason, so that set up Fort Lauderdale, and that allowed for San Antonio to host as a result as the second best record, unlike this year where they are outright the best team this season in the USL Championship. But that was a cold night. Kit McConico and I had the call then for ESPN3. Tonight's game, by the way, is ESPN2 with Mike Watts and Kerr, the faces of the USL Championship. You see them with a lot of coverage on ESPN, but luckily we door spot in the broadcast booth, had those headsets on just to keep our ears warm. But it was just such a fantastic journey. 2012 is when pro soccer really arrived in San Antonio, first with the Scorpions up to 2015, and then passed the baton really to Spurs Sports and Entertainment with SAFC. And look, they have flirted with postseason success. They finally got over the hump and then have run with it this year.
Yeah.
And you keep just looking for a nail biter, but this postseason, they have been hand team each and every night.
Yeah, I was saying on the drive down here that, these two clubs absolutely deserve to be here. But Jonathan, San Antonio FC, in my mind, really deserves to have this moment to be able to host the USL Championship final. Finally, I imagine a young Jonathan Check was in the building also for that 2014 match as well.
The funny thing is, and I was saying this on an episode of the Striker Tejas recently, I actually was not there.
Oh.
I had committed months earlier before that match to go to a friend's birthday party, and I decided to be a man of my word and stick with that. But suffice it to say, I was checking my phone periodically at that party, and I said, all right, San Antonio won 2-0. Cool.
Glad you got your calendars all synced up for this one.
Yeah.
But what's been for you as you look at the time that spanned all of that, the biggest things that have led to this for this franchise and just kind of overall how soccer in San Antonio has grown to this moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting to see, like Lincoln said, it's been a process for SAFC. You start with first 4 years where SAFC, usually with the exception of 2017 when it comfortably made the playoffs, was usually just on the cusp and make a coaching change. Alan Marcina comes. And it's been an upward ascent. You can see now the pieces have been there since the start, and it's just been a refinement every year. You get to the playoffs in 2020, team had maybe lost some steam, and last year, instead, it catches fire at the end of the season and had a good run, but then first ever playoff game on the road, falls in penalties against Jordan County. And this year, and SAFC was saying after that, look, we feel like if we were hosting, it's a completely different game. we get past Orange County, who knows what happens in the final then. And so this year they made sure they were going to have home field advantage throughout as long as they kept winning. And that's what's happened. And, it's interesting you say the last few games that they have looked really good and been in control. It's funny because for most of those games, they've only been up 1-0. And yet you see them having a really good control on the game. It never was out of hand for them in either match against Oakland or Colorado Springs last week.
Take us through this playoff run. Who have been the stars? Well, what's been the sort of the storylines? You say SAFC's been in control this whole time, but what's kind of led to this breakthrough under Alan Marcina that has this team one win away from lifting the ultimate prize?
Yeah, well, if you want to talk stars in the playoffs, I can't start anywhere else except Santiago Patino. Over his almost 2 years here at San Antonio, he has had his injury struggles, but for whatever reason, he's fit for the playoffs and he shows up in the playoffs. He's got 6 goals across, I think, the first 5 games now that SAFC's had between the last 2 years. He shows up with 2 goals at the end of the Oakland game 2 weeks ago to ice that result, a goal last week to ensure that SAFC goes through and is hosting this final today. You also see from guys like Connor Maloney, who has been said about his versatility, how he can play, on the back line, he can play as a wing back, on the wings of midfield, in the center of midfield. Now he's having to play because of some injuries. We'll see with injuries where he ends up tonight, but I'm sure SAFC and Alan Marcina will want to have him on the field somewhere. And, the back line with SAFC getting these leads and defending them for most of these matches, the back line with Mitchell Tainer, USL Championship Defender of the Year, Fabian Garcia, Jasser Kamiri, Carter Manley coming in, Sadwadul Salam coming in, just locking this down. And when somehow a shot gets goalkeeper of the year, Jordan Farr is right there. Alan Marcina said when Jordan was re-signed, I guess technically for the first time at the start of no longer on loan, that a player who comes up with saves in big moments, and that's exactly what you need. This is the biggest moment.
It is the biggest moment. And Lincoln, in this big moment, who are you looking for? Like, what names stick out to you? I know you've covered, a lot of soccer over the years, a lot of lower division, a lot of USL. What are some of the names that stand out to you that you're really looking forward to seeing tonight?
On air, obviously, I'm following the ball nonstop, and my analyst is giving the bigger picture. But I'm going to take advantage tonight. We've already bragged on the defense, but I'm going to take advantage tonight of looking at that defense and just monitoring them nonstop. I've been able to watch San Antonio FC. It is just a fantastic group on that line. It's the reason why a 1-0 feels insurmountable for the most part this. And that Jordan Farr story. I mean, you guys could just do stories about his evolution with this club, with Indy 11, all of last year. San Antonio loses Matt Cardona, the legend, if you will, in goal at the end of last year, and they need an emergency loan at goalkeeper last year, and that's exactly what Jordan Farr came in, did, found a full-time home this year with San Antonio FC. He, with that back line in front of him, just have been brilliant to watch. Again, so I might every now and then be ignoring what's going on in the attacking half, as exciting as that can get in a match like this. I want to truly appreciate and take in what that group of 5 has been able to do.
I will also just chime in. I talk about the defense and I highlight the defenders, but with SAFC getting these leads, it is a 11-man effort to defend that lead. You see pressing, I spoke earlier about Santiago Patino and his goal-scoring exploits in the playoffs, but he will track back. He will apply pressure to, whatever defenders SAFC is playing against. And I think that's a huge part of the success is those players aren't waiting for the ball to get to the midfield, the defense. They are applying the pressure as soon as they can, and it's crucial.
Yeah, ton of coverage that you can find on the striker. Jonathan's done a great job of chronicling and kind of previewing this match. But I also, and mostly from a San Antonio perspective, but I also know you had a chance to catch up with Louisville leadership, John Neese, and just kind of tell a bit of his story and the story of what's been the most successful club in USL over these years. There's certainly an argument to be made. What did you learn about Louisville and about John Neese and about that club and that organization that finds itself back in a USL championship final?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's hard to argue that it is not the successful club just because of its consistency, because of everything it does, not just field, you win 2 titles, the Eastern Conference Final every single year, but you pack that stadium. There is a great fan base there, who are really just the lifeblood of the club. And you've got young players coming through. Jonathan Gomez making the move to Spain this past off season. The 2 Winder boys are this year. It's really great to see, especially because everyone in the US will maybe look at MLS and say, oh, that's where we're going to see, all this talent and stuff. But Louisville is a really good example of teams in the USL Championship and clubs championship really starting to have the full picture. It's not just, especially in minor league sports, you guys sometimes coming in for a year or two. Louisville has also been able to keep a core together, has a great line of youth and talent coming through.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And I can check out that feature on John Neeson, Louisville ownership group on the Striker. Lots of stuff going on at the Striker. We talked, and I'm going to go around here, but we talked about an NASL final that you were at. You were at a birthday party.
I think you had family though there, and I believe one of them still wearing a shirt from 8 years ago just for good luck.
They made it on the field too, right?
Yeah. They did eventually make it on the field. I said in our most recent episode of the Striker Tejas that they were the hooligans who were first to jump on the field. They did. If you actually ask them, they'll tell you, just to set the record straight in case they're mad at me for spreading these lies about them. They did say, all right, well, we're not supposed to go on the field. They play by the rules. I sometimes play by the rules, but eventually they said, all right, everyone else is going out there. They're not really going to be able to push these fans back into the stands. But let's get out there.
As far as USL Championship finals, I'll say this is my first one. First one in person, absolutely. First one in person.
First one in person for sure.
Obviously, first one for San Antonio. Roberto Silva, our executive director behind the scenes. Have you been to a USL Championship final before? It's his first one as well. A lot of these people behind us, it's got to be their first one. So it's not Louisville's first. How many has it been for them?
Like I was saying earlier, they've made the Eastern Conference Final every single year. They've won it to get to this final.
Yeah.
They've won the title twice, 2017 and 2018, the only team to win it back-to-back, and I believe the only team to even have multiple titles at all. They could have done a three-peat in 2019, fell to Real Monarchs, or great Real Monarchs side at the time, and so they might still be feeling the sting from that. Something that I think, even for them, that is a first, is they're having to play away for the first time. And, they talk, if you listen to what head coach Danny Cruz said yesterday, the team realized when they lost in the Eastern Conference Final last year that they needed to work better being a good road team. And so they spent the entire preseason on the road, as he said, and it seems to have paid dividends. They feel a lot more this year going away. And, that could be crucial. They're not going to be as over on a field.
There's a championship next to me. You cover championships all year long, all kinds of sports. What we're talking about is a first-time team in a championship game against a team that's got that experience. How big is this task in front of San Antonio tonight? How many times do you see a first-time opponent get to one of these moments and be able to get over the top?
I think the home field is going to make this feel like anything but a first time. I think the moment that the players representing San Antonio take that field, 8,000 strong plus, probably standing room only, nothing else, just to stay warm. They're going to feel like it has all season long coming out playing in front of them. I think that will get rid of any kind of nerves or any kind of newness to it all. I think Louisville will have the uphill battle. They're very capable of lifting the cup on the road today, but I do think San Antonio earning the right to host. We've seen at all levels. Home field absolutely is an advantage when it comes to postseason. And whether or not you change your style of play, regardless, these fans have been fantastic in San Antonio over the years. They deserve this moment, and they're going to be a part of the moment if they do lift that cup.
One thing that doesn't quite feel like home is the weather here. It's a little bit chillier than it normally is in San Antonio. Hopefully everybody stays warm and they have plenty to carry them into the night. Guys, I'll leave it with this. Any last minute predictions? How, either on the field, off the field, things that you think we're going to see tonight, or just going into this one?
Just looking at, they're the two best defenses in the league. And I was looking earlier, Antonio FC is 23-0-1 when scoring the first goal this year. Louisville 7-2-0, losses in there, so there may be not not impervious, and they've scored the first goal. That first goal is going to be crucial, and we've the first two playoff matches, particularly for I've been keeping a close eye on them. They score the first goal. It was 2 minutes into the game against 23 minutes in last week, and they just it is such a tough defense to break down. So whoever gets that first blood is really in the driver's seat, even more so than you might expect.
I love that first goal. Lincoln, you're looking forward to in particular?
Just the very fact that this is happening. I mean, wait till 2026 for there to be some explosion in some moments like this. It's also the outcome of the USL Championship will reflect back on as being a success story. And frankly, I know you don't want to think about it right now, but even if San Antonio comes in second in this match, this is a night that these fans will remember with fond memories, regardless of how it finishes. One final night to celebrate what has been a fantastic season here in San Antonio.
Yeah, and not just here in San Antonio, but across the United States. We've been covering at the Striker. This is our last game of the year. Here on obviously we'll have some coverage of the World Cup. You can check that out. We'll be covering these throughout the off season, but thank you so much for joining us on this journey all season long. And tune in tonight, ESPN2. Check out Jonathan's coverage tonight of this match. Hopefully everybody enjoys it at home, and you can also be a part of the Striker, be one of our owners, be my boss. Go check out the link there on this broadcast. Go check out our WeFunder, learn a little bit more about the Striker, what we're doing, what we plan to do, and the future of soccer in North America. So thanks everybody, and thank you so much, Lincoln, for joining us.
Somebody had to knock the wind down that was otherwise going to assault you from this direction. But no, selfishly, I wanted to be here and be a part of all this. I love seeing the familiar faces keep bumping into people that I haven't seen in years. But just soccer is just a special opportunity, and it's sad that the season's over. Already looking forward to next season, regardless of how this ends.
Always work tonight. You can send us an invoice. We'll decide on a rate later on. But good luck tonight. It's a big one for all of us, and enjoy the coverage, enjoy the game, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.